Have you ever had that moment where someone you know comes back from a long trip and they're just completely transformed? Well, welcome to today's Explainer, where we're diving into an absolutely epic narrative from ancient texts. We're talking about a hero who returns not just with some cool travel stories, but with unimaginable literal divine power. Today, it's all about Arjuna and the breathtaking, honestly mind-blowing inventory of celestial boons he brings back from the heavens. We're going to break down exactly what he scored, how it completely upends the power dynamics of his world, and the profound emotional impact this whole thing has on his family.
So this brings us to a massive core question. What actually happens when a hero returns to a worldly conflict armed with the absolute power of the gods? I mean, think about the stakes of a normal earthly war, right? You've got armies, you've got strategy, mortal weapons, but then someone steps onto that battlefield carrying tools forged by immortals. The entire scale of the conflict just shatters. It's no longer a fair fight, it is a reckoning. Keep that massive paradigm shift in the back of your mind as we dig into exactly what Arjuna brings back with him.
All right, let's get into Section 1, Arjuna's Divine Arsenal, Gifts from the Sovereign of the Celestials. Arjuna is recounting his time away to his brothers, and he starts listing out these boons from the Lord Maghavan, also known as Sakra or Indra. And wow, think of this as the ultimate mythical care package. We are not just talking about a shiny new sword and shield here. He has literally been granted all the celestial weapons. But the gifts go way beyond just offensive firepower. He gets a golden garland and the Devadatta shell. That's a conch capable of producing these mighty roars that would absolutely strike pure terror into the hearts of any opposing army. On the defensive side, he's gifted this celestial, impenetrable mail that fully protects his body. And, as a mark of ultimate honor, Indra himself places a diadem on Arjuna's head, presenting him with unearthly apparel and super rare ornaments. I mean, he's practically been rendered invincible, right? Outfitted with the absolute best the heavens have to offer. But how invincible is he exactly?
Let's move to Section 2, the mathematics of power, Indra's bold prophecy.
So let's talk about the sheer imbalance of power that's just been created here. According to the text, the sovereign of the celestials considers Arjuna as his very own, and he offers this stunning, almost unbelievable guarantee. He tells Arjuna that when he steps onto the battlefield, the combined might of his greatest earthly enemies won't even amount to 1/16 of his new power. And we are talking about legendary Kshatriyas here, okay? Heavy hitters like Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, Karna, and Shakuni. To put that math into perspective, if you combine all those formidable warriors into one giant force, they make up a measly 6.25% of the total power. Arjuna holds the other 93.75% all by himself. No man on earth will, by any means, be able to overpower him. It is a complete and total game changer.
Which brings us to Section 3, 5 years in heaven, the cost of divine time.
5. That is the massive gap of time we're dealing with here. Arjuna spent 5 long years away from his brothers. You know, when we think of these epic quests, it's so easy to just gloss over the timeline, right? But 5 years, that is a huge chunk of a human life. It's a brutal period of separation for a family that relies so deeply on one another for survival and morale. It's almost like this crazy split screen of life experiences. On one side of the universe, Arjuna's duly honored, delightfully dwelling in Indra's sacred abode, just spending his time with the children of the Gandharvas. Sounds peaceful, divine, honestly pretty idyllic. But then, back down on Earth, his brothers are enduring a wildly different reality. The text explicitly notes Arjuna remembering the dissensions arising from that gambling. So while Arjuna was literally bathed in celestial glory, his brothers were in the mud, wrestling with the grim fallout of their past, dealing with exile and just everyday hardship. 2 completely different worlds being experienced at the exact same time. But, of course, even the delights of heaven have to eventually give way to earthly duty. The time finally comes for him to leave, and it's actually Sakra himself who brings it up. He says to Arjuna, "The time hath come for thy departure. Thy brothers have thought of thee." I absolutely love this detail. It's not just about some cosmic timer running out, it's an emotional trigger. The profound connection between these brothers reaches all the way up into the celestial realms. Their longing for him is literally the catalyst that kicks off his journey home.
Section 4, a turning point for Yudhishthira, the emotional reunion.
So Arjuna finally tracks down his brothers on the summit of the lower range of the Gandhammadana, and Yudhishthira's response? It's just this massive outpouring of relief. He keeps repeating the phrase "by fortune" over and over again. He's marveling that by fortune the weapons were obtained, the master of the immortals adored, and the Lokapalas met. He even praises that the divine Stanu, who we also know as Shiva, along with the goddesses were gratified by Arjuna in battle. But above all that, the absolute peak of his joy is the safe return of Arjuna, who he calls Partha. For Yudhishthira, Arjuna coming back in one piece is the ultimate sign that their fortunes have, at long last, actually prospered.
Have you ever gotten news that was so incredibly good that an impossible challenge suddenly just felt like a done deal? That is the absolute shift in confidence we're seeing here. Yudhishthira declares, "Today I consider as if the entire earth and garlanded with cities hath already been conquered, and as if the sons of Dhritarashtra have already been subdued." Think about it. Before Arjuna returned, these brothers were exiled, victims of a rigged game. Now, just having Arjuna standing there in front of him with the literal backing of the heavens, Yudhishthira feels like the war is already won. The psychological victory is complete. In his mind, the enemy is as good as defeated.
And finally, Section 5, tomorrow's display of power, the ultimate cliffhanger.
Now, hearing about ultimate power and actually seeing it are two entirely different things, and Yudhishthira is understandably desperate to lay eyes on these legendary weapons. He specifically mentions wanting to see the exact tools Arjuna used to slay the powerful Nivata-Kavachas. But Arjuna, he doesn't just shore them off right then and there. Oh no, he sets up the absolute perfect anticipation. He tells his brother, "Tomorrow in the morning, thou wilt see all the celestial weapons." They spend that night together, finally reunited, but with this incredible, heavy promise just hanging in the air. The grand display of celestial destruction is just going to have to wait for the dawn.
So, with a hero who now holds power that literally dwarfs the greatest earthly warriors combined, power mathematically guaranteed by the sovereign of the Celestials to be overwhelmingly superior, what exactly will that dawn reveal? When Arjuna finally unleashes those weapons of the gods, how will the very earth react? Well, that's something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this deep dive into the source material helped illuminate exactly how a hero becomes a legend. See you next time.